So an important part of your gear is your clothing kit. And this is a subset of gear that a lot of people don't necessarily think too much about. But it is really important to make sure that, especially in a 3-season kit like we're talking about here, you have all your bases covered. For everything except the feet, you want to think about making sure you have the 3 levels. You need a base layer, you need an insulating layer, and then you need your element protection layer. And so we'll discuss how that applies to each individual part as we go through Tom's kit.
And this particular kit is the full spectrum of what I could possibly carry on a 3-season backpacking trip. There might be times where I'm not carrying each and every single element of this kit. It kind of depends on what trail I'm on and what time of the summer or spring or fall it is, and kind of what the terrain is like. If I'm at high altitudes, I'm going to be a little colder. If I'm at lower altitudes in the mid-Atlantic of the Appalachian Trail, it's going to be a little hotter, so I might need less. But this is generally what I'm going to be pulling from for that 3-season kit. So first, it all starts at the feet, ground up. So we have trail running sneakers here. And I got socks over here. The socks that I use are typically a merino wool blend, and the shoes that I typically use are trail runners. It's very rare that I go away from a trail runner on a long distance through hike unless I am dealing with winter. So for 3-season, certainly going for that comfortable, especially comfortable out of the box, ready to go out of the box fit. And I always want to remember that I'm getting a shoe that's probably at least a half size bigger. And if this is your first through hike, especially if you're desert through hiking, be aware that your foot can grow when you're hiking in the desert. So half size up might not be enough for you. You might need a full size up to allow for that extra swelling and growth that your foot might be going through on your first through hike. One of the advantages of a trail running sneaker is that it breathes very well. So if your foot is sweating because you're doing big miles, it's going to dry quickly because it's aerating through the mesh more easily. Or if you're hiking in the rain all day long, the next day it's going to dry out a little easier because there's no waterproof membrane that's trapping water in and preventing all the moisture from evaporating out. So I always go with, no matter the trail and no matter the season of the 3-season backpacking, I always go with a mesh trail runner. I do not go with a waterproof membrane at all. You're also going to be aware of the different types of trail runners. This is not one size fits all, so to speak, from trail running. This is a more moderate cushion stack that you're seeing here. So there's minimalist, which is just like it sounds, a very minimalist shoe. There's moderate, and then there's maximalist. This is the Ultra Timp, and it is a more cushiony shoe. A lot of feet are a little more, these shoes are more forgiving for feet that are going to get pounded all day long across rocks. You also want to be aware of the tread on these. This has a more aggressive lug, and you're going to get more grip, especially in muddier environments, wetter environments. You're going to have better grip, and you're going to be more stable, and it's going to help you prevent injury. So Heather, what do you have to say about trail running shoes?
I think you more or less covered it. I mean, I think the real key is making sure you get a shoe that fits your foot and works with your biometrics, because everybody is a little different, and there is no one shoe that's better than others.
I didn't start backpacking in trail runners. I started backpacking in leather, high top, very stiff boots. And it took a while for my feet to forgive me for that. I naturally progressed into using trail runners because they are more anatomically correct to your foot. They allow more flexibility in the foot, which then takes stress away from your ankles and takes stress away from your knees and ultimately your hips. So you're moving more freely, your body's working more anatomically correct, and at the end of the day, your body's not screaming at you quite as much. One thing to be aware of with trail runners versus a more durable shoe like a boot is very durable. Trail runners are less durable. You're going to go through more shoes than you would boots on any given trail by and large. So again, for socks here, it's going to be make or break when it comes to blisters. It's not just about the shoes. The socks you use are going to matter quite a bit. It's also important to keep your socks clean when you're hiking. These particular socks are a merino blend, and what they do is they don't absorb all the odors that your feet are producing throughout your through hike. So what I like to do is, when I come to a creek or a stream, I'll get some water with my water bottle, and I'll douse my socks and wring them out and dry them on my pack when I put the next new fresh pair on my feet. So that way I can continually be cycling clean socks between town stops when I can actually throw them in the washer and clean them properly in town. Next, we have base layers here. We have not only base layers, but we have underwear. We have leggings, we have long sleeve next to skin, and we have short sleeve next to skin. So base layers that I like to use by and large when I'm doing 3-season backpacking, I use synthetic base layers because I tend to sweat a lot, and I need my base layers to dry more quickly because I don't want to just be soaking wet all the time. So a lot of my base layers are indeed synthetic. The one thing that you will experience with synthetic layers is, after weeks and months of using these clothings, they tend to smell and hold smells longer, and they become more difficult to get those odors out of those fibers. Heather tends to use more merino wool, which she'll get into in her kit a little bit more, but sometimes I do hike with a merino t-shirt. Sometimes the thinner merino t-shirts just so they can dry more quickly. The thicker the merino wool, obviously the longer it's gonna take to dry out. And some of those nylon blends will also have antimicrobial treatments to them that can kind of help defend against all those types of microbes that would latch on and produce some of those smells. So you might want to take a look at some of those types of blends that will have that treatment on them. Now, getting over here to my outerwear in terms of my what I wear on my legs, I typically wear shorts with a liner. Now, I know I'm showing underwear over here, and I'm wearing underwear when I'm wearing long pants, but when I'm wearing shorts, I have the built-in liner just because it's a little bit easier. It helps prevent against chafage. And when it comes to using underwear, I would go with an underwear that comes down a little bit, like a boxer brief that will defend your inner thighs from chafing against one another. But again, my go-to typically is a shorter short that does have a built-in liner. And then I am typically using a techier pant here that is made of nylon, just because it's a little more durable. And if I'm, say, hiking in the desert regions of the Southwest, there's a lot of super gnarly, scratchy, thorny things, and it can really, they'll get shredded, but they'll save your legs from getting, cut up really bad. So with my top layer here, this is a long sleeve shirt. This is actually a quarter zip. One beautiful thing about the quarter zip is you can really help ventilate yourself while you're hiking and getting super hot. You can drop that down, vent all that heat that you're creating from your body from all your sweat. Some people like to use the full zip too. And some people even like to use a button down that has little snap buttons that you can just pop open while you're hiking, and then once you're around some other people, you can quickly button up and maybe not offend them quite so easily. But getting on to the the insulation and outerwear and wind jackets here. Insulation is a critical component of a 3-season hike, and particularly when you're in the larger mountain regions, say on trails like the Continental Divide. It gets very cold both in the desert and at high altitudes. So, what might be 100 degrees during the day in the sun, as soon as you get in the shade or when the sun goes down, huge swings in temperatures occur, and you can find yourself getting really cold really quickly, especially after you've been soaked in sweat all day. And the first thing you want to do is get warm and comfortable. Now, from a thru hiker perspective, we're not spending a lot of time not backpacking, and we're not spending a lot of time not in our sleeping bag. It's kind of one or the other. The name of the game is hiking and sleeping. So when we're in camp, we're throwing this on, but we're typically getting right in the sleeping bag as soon as we can just to stay warm. But always good to have a lightweight insulated layer, and especially out west where it's a more arid climate, the down works really well. If you're gonna be in a more temperate climate or more humid climate, some of the more synthetic insulating jackets can work really well because they still maintain a lot of their warming properties to them even when they get wet. The down jackets pack down better than the synthetic jackets do. So be aware of that when thinking about what kind of jacket you want to get. One packs down better than the other. Some people like to wear very, very light wind jackets because they breathe a little better, but they help you defend against the wind. Some people like to have their rain jacket for this particular purpose, but sometimes they get too hot hiking in a rain jacket, and this thin wind shell can really be super versatile and can add to your base layer. You hiking with a combination of those two things in, say, freezing temperatures can really be beneficial to the layering system that you're working on for your particular kit. And lastly, but not least, is your rain shell. Ultimately, there's no such thing as something that's completely waterproof. So you need to plan on the concept of when it comes down, when the rain comes, you will ultimately get soaking wet no matter what. Having a good rain jacket is helpful, but ultimately, really what the rain jacket is going to be doing for you is helping trap your heat in so you can stay warm while you're getting wet. Just be prepared for the idea that no rain jacket will keep all the rain out. And in fact, if you're hiking in the rain, you are going to be getting hot in there. It's going to be creating moisture inside too. So your body's producing moisture from the inside, and the rain is coming through and soaking the material from the outside. So there's truly the concept of waterproof rain jacket. It's only applicable to a laboratory test. Out there, if it's going to rain on you, you're going to get wet. You're going to be soaked to the core. Be prepared for it. And to close it out, of course, we have rain pants too. And the same can be said, you're gonna get wet, but really you wanna do is defend your skin against the blowing cold while being soaking wet. Really, it's just all about keeping your core temperature warm while hiking in cold, wet temperatures.
And most importantly, when you're in town washing your laundry, you wear your rain gear. So really you're carrying it for that purpose.
Yeah. So looking at my entire 3-season kit here, it might be shocking to you that this is what I'm carrying for 6 months, but sometimes I'm even carrying less than this depending on the trail that I'm on. And if you notice, you don't see any cotton here. You don't see any denim here. These types of materials are not, going to support you on your endeavors in the outdoors. These types of materials are comfortable, they clean easily, they dry easily, they're durable, they feel good against your skin, and in some cases, in Merino's case, sustainable.